The finale kicks off with Julia Jane ambushing Isaiah and Elena at the cigar shop where Elena's been hiding out. Julia shoots Isaiah, but Elena fights back, hitting Julia with a hammer. Julia dies after managing to shoot Elena too. Elena's phone is on the ground, buzzing with a call from Muncie. Muncie finds out what went down and rushes to the hospital, where Isaiah and Elena are being treated. Kwesi fills him in that the doctors are working on them. Muncie opens up to Kwesi, saying Dee, his son, still isn't talking. Kwesi reassures him that Dee will come around eventually. Muncie tells him he has Julia on tape. The cops show up to question Muncie. They tell him they found 2 cars at the scene, the stolen one and another registered to Julia. Inside Julia's car, they discovered a device that can mimic a heart attack by blocking signals to the nervous system. They're also testing for traces of the substance in Laura Jennings' hotel room. Muncie asks if they've spoken to FBI agent Osman, pointing out that Julia's laptop clears his name. The cops confirm they're now looking at Julia as the main suspect in the murders of Mark Simon, Laura Jennings, and others. Muncie, however, tells them Julia wasn't acting alone and plays an audio recording of her admitting she worked for Rodney Cranes. The cops thank him but insist they'll handle it from here. At the hospital, Muncie visits Elena, holding her hand and crying. Later, he visits Dee, asking him to stay with him while his mom recovers. At home, Muncie watches the news, which reports that Julia was responsible for the murder of white supremacist Mark Simon, after a business deal between them went sideways. She allegedly hired someone to kill Simon and frame Muncie. The FBI announces Julia as the mastermind and closes the case. The next day, Muncie meets Kwesi, who reveals that Cranes got Muncie off the hook. Muncie isn't happy because Rodney Cranes is the real culprit and is why Elena is in the hospital. Muncie is frustrated the cops aren't even investigating him. Kwesi mentions CNN called, wanting a tell-all, but Muncie is hesitant since they fired him just days ago. Muncie gets a call from the hospital. Elena is awake. He rushes to see her and apologizes for not being there. Elena tells him she just spoke to Demetrius and says he is struggling. She admits she loves Muncie but insists they need time apart to heal. She asks him to care for Dee while she recovers, but afterward she wants him to step back. As Muncie leaves the hospital, he is approached by Rodney Crane's lawyer, Bill Johnson, who offers him $5 million for an NDA to keep quiet. Muncie refuses. Later, he tells Kwesi about the offer. Kwesi thinks it's a good sign Rodney isn't trying to kill him anymore, but Muncie refuses to be bought off. He argues Rodney will come for him anyway and won't sleep peacefully until Rodney is in jail or dead. That night, Muncie meets with Lucy and confides that Rodney killed her husband, Mark. He's considering going public and wants her to know first. He encourages her to let the Forge, who are Mark's old group, know Rodney's name in case Rodney gets to him first. Lucy blames herself, admitting she gave Julia Mark's location, thinking she was FBI. Muncie investigates further and finds Franco's notebook, which mentions a cobalt mine in Minnesota tied to Revitalize, which is Rodney's company. Lucy shares that Mark stopped supporting Revitalize after discovering their shady dealings. Despite his anger at CNN, Muncie eventually agrees to do the tell-all, but on his terms. He's not interested in turning it into a sensational show. Instead, he plans to expose Rodney's crimes, including using Julia to kill people who stood in the way of deregulating the cobalt mine. On air, Muncie lays it all out, playing Julia's recordings and showing surveillance footage of her and Rodney at a private airport in Minnesota. He explains how Rodney uses this information and murder for profit, calling on authorities to arrest him. Muncie also reflects on his own accountability, admitting he's been part of the problem and vowing to stop twisting the truth. He announces it'll be his last show. That night, Muncie grows paranoid, thinking someone's following him. Grabbing a baseball bat from his car, he finds no one there. At home, Dee shows up, planning to stay just one night. He notices Muncie's awards are gone. Muncie says he doesn't need them anymore. Dee urges him to shoot Rodney, blaming him for Elena's near death, but Muncie insists Elena wanted him to change. Meanwhile, Lucy turns over plans from the forge to the FBI, exposing their violent activities. Rodney gets questioned but denies any involvement, painting Julia as a deranged ex-employee. Dee, frustrated by the lack of justice, takes matters into his own hands. After learning Rodney's office address, he grabs Muncie's gun to confront him. Muncie realizes what Dee is up to and rushes to stop him. Facing Rodney, Muncie hears him justify his actions, claiming he is solving the world's problems. Muncie considers shooting him but ultimately decides not to, realizing it would make him know better. The authorities arrest members of the forge, but Rodney escapes serious charges. He continues to deny involvement even as the news broadcasts Muncie's exposé. In a tragic twist, Muncie is killed by a hooded assassin. The media calls it poetic justice. The series ends with a flash forward to Muncie's peaceful life. He's no longer on TV, working as a teacher and spending time with his kids, Dee and Callie. Elena joins them at a barbecue, hinting at a hopeful reunion.